Hello there, going live on a Thursday at an odd time. It's 2 p.m. and I'm here for all you East Coasters who are just getting off of work maybe. If we haven't met, my name is Julie Hirschberg. I am a neuro PT and the owner and founder of Re+active Therapy and Wellness, now back in LA. I was in New York City just yesterday and just on Sunday running the New York City Marathon, the most spectacular marathon ever, I think. I've only run one before, but I gotta say ever. Most amazing. Definitely made me want to just move to New York City and walk down the street and get cheered on by all these great people. So just back last night, in fact, it's so funny. I hopped up here to my desk and I had my Metro card in my pocket, and I got to show you behind me, I got to add my medals. So I have my Chicago Marathon, and here's my New York City Marathon medal. I'm pretty excited. I'm wearing all my marathon gear for as long as I can because I didn't think it would be possible to run a marathon. I've been talking about this a little bit, but I had a stress fracture in my ankle at the end of training here. So I had to really take time off and maybe not run it, maybe not even walk it, but I was able to train enough to run, walk it, and finish it, but I wasn't sure I would. And Liz is here. Thanks so much, Liz. I'm so appreciative of people's support. It definitely means a lot when you're training for something big, you get knocked down a few times. Having a lot of support from this community has meant a lot. So anyway, I'm so excited to be back, and I'm not here to talk about the marathon, although I could talk about it over and over again. I really wanted to share this article that I literally just pulled up today as we had finalized our slides, and Chelsea and I were reviewing them this morning for our dystonia course, which is tonight, by the way. We were talking about this great research protocol that was on sensory training for frozen shoulder. This research protocol had been published a couple of years ago. And I said, you know what? I haven't seen that they've actually published a study with this yet. And lo and behold, I was like, let me look this up. There was a study and it just came out this year. And I was so excited. I put it right away into our slides for tonight, but I just wanted to give you a little preview. So let me pull up the study here. So here's just the title: Central Nervous System Focused Treatment Program for People with Frozen Shoulder. This was a feasibility study, so a very small study. This is a group out of Spain. Many of us are really big fans of Adrian Lau, who is one of the authors of this study and is really big in kind of the pain neuroscience world, which interestingly kind of exists in the orthopedic world, but it's neuro. And gosh, I think everything should be a central nervous system treatment program for everything, really, not just frozen shoulder. But this study used the protocol of sensory mapping and sensory discrimination training as part of their treatment approach. So let me tell you a little bit about the study. So again, super small, I believe. I have the study pulled up here. 10 people. By the way, the study is free, full text. If you're coming to our dystonia course tonight, yay, can't wait to see you. But we've included this study in the resources, and I will include the link to this in our newsletter. If you're not a part of our newsletter, you can join that at Reactive Education or reactivept.com. But very, very small study. So anytime there's a small study, you have to ask the question does this even apply to the person in front of me? How does it apply? But there's always something to learn. And I was just excited to see that their extensive protocol, which again was a sensory mapping technique for sensory discrimination that they published in a couple of case studies, that protocol was used here. So they had 10 people with frozen shoulder. They had a 10-week program that included in-person PT sessions and then 30 minutes, 5 days a week of home training in the treatment. They did both graded motor imagery and they did the sensory mapping technique. Now, there's a lot of really good nuggets from this study that I'm excited to share with you. Let me share first some of the outcomes. So, oh shoot, I don't think I have the pictures here. Hold on. Okay, we're back. I wanted to make sure I can share these pictures with you, and I had to grab them. So, in the study, these were some of the outcomes. So again, really small group. They actually measured people at baseline. Then they did a washout period, no therapy, no nothing, T0, T1 right after, and then they did a follow-up, which is great. And what they looked at were several things. The SPADI, it's a shoulder pain and disability index. So they did that. They did 2-point discrimination thresholds. They did a catastrophizing scale. And those are the measures here, and you can actually see what those are on the side. There's a central sensitization scale as well. So you can see here that generally people improved in all of these measures, but it wasn't a statistically significant improvement in these particular measures. So that is important to note. And then look at what was significant here. So these ones. These measures were measures that were significantly improved. So active range of motion improved, and particularly at the follow-up. So this is really important because oftentimes we'll see improvement at the end of therapy, but then it's not sustained and it certainly doesn't get better. But these folks actually got better. That's really meaningful. I think, and particularly with frozen shoulder, where range of motion and use of the arm is one of the biggest pieces, to see that improved significantly and continued to improve. The other thing that significantly improved was their pain level. So you can see that it actually went down quite a bit. This was a numeric pain rating scale, and that went down. It continued to go down after the therapy had finished. So great, right? We can decrease pain, we can improve range of motion. Some other things might not change if we do a central nervous system approach based on graded motor imagery and sensory training. Why are we talking about this with dystonia? Well, one of the big things and the big similarities here, I'll stop sharing this, big similarities between pain and dystonia. One of the biggest ones is I always struggle to find a better word than smudging, but a smudging of the sensory map in the brain, meaning it's distorted. You're not having distinct representation of, in the case of frozen shoulder, the shoulder. In the case of dystonia, maybe it's the neck, maybe it's the hand, maybe it's the foot, maybe it's the trunk. So you have a distortion in the sensory map. And we know that both in pain and in dystonia, sensory training can be very effective. What the protocol that these authors published and now have published a feasibility study with showed that sensory training can improve somebody's abilities, which is great. Now, they didn't just do sensory training, they also did graded motor imagery. I'm actually really excited about that because it's pretty rare that we just do one thing. in therapy. It's pretty rare that we just go, okay, we're going to do 10 weeks of just sensory training. From a practical standpoint, that is rare. From a research standpoint, that's very common because we're kind of controlling for variables there. But in therapy, no, like we're going to take a whole person approach. We're going to look at the sensory system. We're going to look at motor control. And that's where graded motor imagery is really at that overlap of sensory and motor control. So they did this for 10 weeks. One of the big take homes as well from the study that didn't really show up in that table was that people had a hard time doing this. So they had 10 weeks, 10 weeks is a long time, and they had 30 minutes of practice at home, which in the sensory protocol actually required another person to help them with. So the sensory protocol, by the way, if you've heard us talk about mapping before, and I demonstrated this last week or the week before when talking about dystonia, we actually, in the shoulder, they would do a grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the person has to identify where they're touching, and then they start to identify different types of textures, identify things through graphesthesia, so writing on the shoulder, and it progresses for 10 weeks. Well, you can imagine to practice that, you need somebody to do that to you, right? And this has definitely been a challenge that I see. If you don't have that person, maybe you don't have somebody 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 10 minutes to do this with you. I think that's a big, big barrier to some of the sensory treatment. And I know our team has gotten really creative, and you're going to see some of our creativity if you're in our course tonight on dystonia of how to do this when you don't have somebody else there. And so what they found in this study is only 70% of people were able to really adhere to the protocol. Not what they wanted, right? And so that's why this is a feasibility study. Like, how feasible is it to do this type of training? And I think it brought up a really, really good barrier, and one in which we really have to get creative. How can we do localization and mapping without another person? So we've done it, right? So I'm really excited for our course tonight because we're going to show a lot of cases of how this can be done. And I share this particular study. Again, it is frozen shoulder and it's not dystonia. I'm not saying that frozen shoulder is dystonia, but the mechanistic piece of potentially for frozen shoulder and dystonia with this sensory smudging of the sensory maps in the cortex is exactly why this can be effective both in something like frozen shoulder and in dystonia. There's actually so much overlap there. It's really, really interesting. And what's great is we can take some of the concepts that have been studied and identified in pain and in neuroscience and apply those to dystonia. So we're going to talk about that tonight in our course. I am so, so excited. So again, let me just pull up this. If you haven't already seen this article, I highly recommend it. I'll put it in our newsletter this week. Central Nervous System Focused Treatment Program for people with frozen shoulder. And today we talked about how these concepts of sensory mapping and graded motor imagery also apply to the process of dystonia. Treating dystonia is so much more than just loosening muscles and improving joint mobility. It's very much, just like in this case of the frozen shoulder, much broader and takes a central nervous system approach that addresses both the sensory, the motor control, autonomic, lifestyle, psychosocial, in addition to those physical impairments. So if you're a healthcare provider, I would love for you to join us in our course tonight. We go live tonight, but then it's recorded and it's with you forever whenever you need it. It's going to include our cheat sheets for dystonia evaluation and treatment. It's going to include videos and handouts on how to do things like joint position error and subjective visual vertical, all of those kind of specialty assessments of the sensory system and motor control and autonomic that we use in dystonia. I'm so excited for it tonight. Chelsea and I just went through it today, and I couldn't be more excited for the cases and things that we're going to be able to share with you all. So again, if you haven't already signed up for the course, you can sign up for it at reactiveeducation.com/dystonia. And again, if you're not on our newsletter, catch this video and all the resources that we will share. If you're a healthcare provider, at reactiveeducation.com. If you're a person with a neurologic disorder, at reactivept.com. Thanks so much for joining me for a little bit today. I appreciate you all, and I will see you soon.